Combine week rolling on, and while many of the bigger names aren't displaying their talents, that doesn't mean they're not making news. Presumptive top 5 pick Abdul Carter's stock has grown complicated. The Penn State Products medical evaluation revealed a stress reaction in his right foot. At this time, Carter has been advised that surgery is not necessary, and the best edge in the class does remain on schedule to work out at the Penn State Pro Day, March 28th. For more, we welcome in CBS Sports NFL analyst Emory Hunt from Indianapolis. Emory, it's always interesting when we get these news bits out of this week, and we can receive it one way, but I'm more interested, how was it received by the room? What was the buzz around the Carter news on Tuesday?
It's like, oh, man, this is not what you want to hear, Joe. And everyone was like, man, this is something that could potentially put someone else in play for the first overall pick or even the second overall pick. I don't think he'll fall out of the top 5, to be completely honest. But the buzz around the combine at the workouts was, well, maybe if Shamar Stewart kills it in terms of running this 40-yard dash, this 4.4 40-yard dash, and how high he's going to jump and how far he's going to jump at a broad jump, maybe he usurps a guy like Abdul Carter based off this injury, like a Trayvon Walker did, Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau. But we didn't see the 4.4 40 from Shamar Stewart. Abdul Carter, the good part about that, it was a big sign of relief when it came out that he may not need surgery. But these are the things that you worry about when you think about the Evan Neals, when you think about a Peyton Turner when New Orleans drafted him in the first round out of Houston, coming in injured and having already some questions about the injury. And it's not just this fracture, this stress injury, it's also the shoulder in the national the playoffs. So those things are question marks, and you hope all of that gets cleared and ready to go by the time he hits the pro day.
Sort of like looking at these prospects in a scale of justice, putting beans on each side, both positive and negative, and finding where that balance point is. This is certainly one on the negative ledger for Carter, but hopeful to see him at full form at that pro day. Carter is among those that won't have to wait long, like you said, and could be one of the dominoes that determines the wait for Travis Hunter. The two-way star stopped by our set on Tuesday.
Hey, let me ask you if teams have talked to you about this, or if this is your decision in terms of the drills, in terms of wide receiver, DB drills. Have you decided how that might work?
Yeah, just go work out with both.
Are you going to do both? Okay, all right.
That's what they're telling me to do, but no, I'm not doing
okay with
anything
that?
here. I'm not doing anything here. I'm waiting until my pro day.
Oh, okay, even better. Now we got you. Thank you for that.
All right, so making it official there at the CBS Sports HQ set at the Combine here. Emory, we could go back and forth on where we think Hunter's fit for the future lies, if both sides of the ball is realistic, but he's just fun to watch when the ball is in the air. So no on-field for Hunter here in Indy. Strategically sound in your eyes, or is this a missed opportunity to cement his spot in those top 4 or so picks?
I feel like it's strategically designed because we both know that he's going to go out there, run fast, jump high, do all of these Olympic type things out there at Indy. Selfishly, we all want to see it. As media members and also as fans watching the sport, you just want to see the best of the best do great things. So I get it. And now what's going to happen, he's going to drive everybody to Boulder for the pro day, which helps out other guys on that side of the football, the defense side of the football. We know Shador is helping out those guys on the offensive side of the ball, get more eyes on them, more GMs, more decision makers at the pro day. But you kind of wanted to see him work out, but I get it. This guy has done a lot, not only just in the games, but in practice. So anytime he gets a rest, I'm all for it. I even asked him with the first question at the podium, hey, have you ever thought about, now that everyone's talking about offense and defense, what about returning kicks? He was like, man, I already got 2 jobs. So I was like, fair point.
He is a man with a full schedule, and it'll likely stay that way for the foreseeable future. If he goes somewhere where his services are needed on both sides of the football, but just sort of out there making the connections, and we know the talent level, and so much of it can't be represented by any one drill. That ball savvy, the skill when the play needs to be made is certainly something that he excels in. Someone inevitably each and every year opens eyes and leaves the talent evaluators drooling coming out of a combine. Who won the day here at Thursday's workout, excuse me?
James Pierce out of Tennessee did a fantastic job. We spoke with him yesterday, and we did a blind ranking of, defensive players and how would you rank who has the best size or this, and that. And when we got to size, they're like, can I put myself for speed? Can I put myself again? I was like, bro, you can do all yourself if you want to, right? It's like, I am the best. I was like, I appreciate that. And I love, though, he compared this game to Lawrence Taylor, but he went out there today ran 4.47 in the 40-yard dash. He had a vertical jump, which is okay of 31, but a broad jump of 10.3. And the 40-yard dash is what made him stand out. But Joe, listen, here's a part of his game that people don't understand how good he is and why I'm so high on him. Is that, yes, he can rush the passer. He's a classic speed guy coming off the edge at the collegiate level, but they dropped him back in the short zone, and he was so fluid in how he was able to drop and carry backs down the sideline or tight ends down the seam, and also turn the ball over. And just to build on that, we saw him out here today in the bag drills, going through the different weave drills and agility drills. He looked fluid as all outdoors, did a great job to it. Some people was like, man, he could probably be a wide receiver with how fluid he's moving at 6'5", 250 pounds to 45 pounds. So he definitely won the day with his athleticism and has put himself in that conversation within the top 15.
Yeah, athleticism, fluidity, certain things that pop on the tape. The question mark there with the Tennessee edge rusher is that push to power. So with that, I ask you, how was the handshake? Good handshake?
Good handshake, and he's also a former pescatarian, and we had him blind rank his top 5 fishes, and his best fish, Joe, whiting. I was like, yeah, he's definitely from Charlotte. From Charlotte, because he had salmon at number 2. It was like, okay, I could buy that, but he had whiting at number 1.
Yeah, good omegas there at 2. You need to build out your roster deeper, and whiting going a little bit off the board. Maybe a reach at number 1 here as draft season certainly is upon us. Let's talk biggest loser, because sometimes you felt a certain way about a prospect coming in, and then you look at the numbers and you say, man, that's not what the tape looked like. Who was the biggest loser on Thursday?
I would say Deion Walker of Kentucky, and is not loser in the sense that he's still not a good football player. And this is the issue we have with the combine, because certain guys are going to go out there and slaughter it in terms of like, hey, we're doing it with 44 inch vertical, 35 broad jump, just some crazy numbers. And then you get a guy that's a really good football player that's large at 6'7", 331, and he carries it well, but the testing wasn't as good. And you wanted to see him have a better vertical jump or a better broad jump or a better 3-cone or whatnot. And I think he didn't do that. But in terms of watching him play the game, that's where he's going to be good. But in terms of testing, for the sake of the term loser, I feel like Walker could have done better. The bend wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But again, he's 6'7", 331. Can he collapse the pocket? Absolutely. But bending and trying to really show the short area agility, that is not particularly his game. So not surprising he didn't test well, but when you look at what everybody else did, it really stood out.
Yeah, depth and skill at that position certainly there this year. So you got to stand out and make your play pop in one way or another. So we'll see where he does fall on all of these talent evaluators' big boards. Tomorrow, another opportunity. DBs in that deep tight end class showing out here on Friday. Who's at the top of the Czar's notebook for tomorrow? Who are you interested in seeing?
Listen, I want to see the Kansas defensive backs. Kobe Bryant, Melo Dotson. I like both of those corners. Kobe Bryant has terrific ball skills. He's feisty. I told you at the Shrine Bowl, there's always one dude at practice that's loud. That's the voice of practice. That's Kobe Bryant, and he was outstanding there. Melo Dotson, a little bit more quiet, a little bit more demure, so to speak, and he does a great job at finding the football. So both guys are out there competing at a super high level. I'm glad they're going to go out there and work out. I'm glad they're going to go out there and test. I'm excited to see those guys go out there and perform.
Always mindful. Emory Hunt, we appreciate you.
And some girdle and a shirt running straight line. You never run straight line in football. So that doesn't equate to somebody being a good football player just because they run a fast 40. So I think what Pete said hits home 100%. It's all about empowerment. These guys want to feel comfortable where they work out, right? If you're a quarterback, you want to throw at receivers that you're used to throwing with the timing. And as a player, you don't want to put out bad tape at a combine when maybe you're a quarterback and you're not accustomed to throwing with certain guys, right? So, again, we're going to see more and more of this. We saw Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. Didn't work out at all. I wouldn't be surprised if Travis Kelce follows that same suit and doesn't do anything and just relies on his tape because he's a heck of a football player.
Let's talk about Travis Hunter specifically, and he's not going to work out. He's going to wait till his pro day, and he says he's going to do both workout at cornerback and wide receiver. Told you guys that earlier on our set. We also had Cooper Pategna on our set, the national recruiting analyst for 24/7 Sports, and he said that Hunter is different from everybody else in that he didn't do any of the rivals camps or the 24/7 camps. He didn't run track, so he doesn't have any quote-unquote verified metrics. Lige, does that worry you at all?
Not at all, and that's why I'm leaning towards him not doing anything at all. I know when we interviewed him earlier, he said he was going to do the workout with the corners and the receivers, but to Cooper's point, right, going back and looking at his history, because he's always been one of the top recruits in the nation, there is no measurables. There are no metrics. So, again, I don't foresee that changing for him. Our team's not going to take him in the top 3? No, they're still going to take him in the top 3. Just like Marvin Harrison was a top 5 pick last year, and he was a top recruit coming out in high school, and he was a top recruit last year going into the draft. So, again, I'm not worried about his metrics. I know a lot of people were worried about his frame, and I kind of compared body types to Sauce Gardner, and there was a concern for him, but then he had back-to-back all-pro seasons. So I don't think there's a real issue. Travis Hunter has been dinged up a little bit here and there, but I think that's more volume of snaps he's gotten, and that's kind of put him at risk. I don't think there's a concern about his metrics or his measurables.
Well, also there's stories of him in high school where, maybe you didn't measure him, but he went and played in 7-on-7 tournaments when he wasn't even supposed to be playing in it. The guy loves the game. And, you pop in his tape, you watch him, he's got the instincts at cornerback, maybe like nobody in a long time. And ball instincts are unreal. But more than that, he loves playing football. And for me, that's the most important thing of all of it. He's going to work out. He's going to be involved in it. He's going to live the game. And I think that to me supersedes any 40 time at all.
Well, tonight we are going to get our first look at on-field drills, and it's going to be the defensive front 7 on the line and linebackers. And Lige, you were on the line in the NFL for a decade. Of the players who are expected to be out there, who are you most looking forward to see?
Yeah, I talked about this being the underwear Olympics. Get your popcorn ready for Shamar Stewart. We actually interviewed him earlier this week, Pete, and there's some rumors that he, at 280-plus pounds, could run as low as a 4.5. When I talked to him, he said, if everything goes according to plan, don't be surprised if you see a 4.4 something, which is astronomical, Pete. There's no comp for somebody that size. Like, honestly, the way he plays, his comp kind of, for me, was Jadeveon Clowney. Like, the measurables and everything. Jadeveon Clowney had more production than Shamar Stewart. But Jadeveon Clowney, if I'm not mistaken, ran in, like, the 4.5s at 280 pounds at the Combine a few years ago. So, again, this is a freak athlete. You see it right there, 6'6", 290 pounds. If he runs 4.4 or anything, again, people get enamored. We talked about this, Pete. That could shoot him up draft boards.
But that goes completely opposite of what you just said about the underwear.
I know,
because here's why. He had 4.5 sacks.
Correct.
4.5 in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, something doesn't jive there. When you watch the tape, he's not that productive as an edge rusher. He should be more productive than what he is with those type of skills. So it goes opposite of what we just talked about.
Well, I'll say this because I asked him this question too, when we interviewed him. Watching his tape, he gets back there and he gets pressure. His issue is finishing and collecting sacks. So I asked him, and because I know this as a pass rusher, sometimes when you miss a sack here, you miss a sack there, it becomes a mental thing. Like, why do I continue to miss sacks? So I asked him that question. I was like, is it just about finishing better, or has this become like a mental block for you? And he said, it's just about finishing. He says, sometimes I win so easily, I'm out of control when I get to the quarterback. And sometimes you got to be able to balance to get the sack. So it's not like he's not getting pressure, because he does get constant pressure. He just doesn't finish with sacks.
Somebody needs to tell him that close is only good in horseshoes and slow dancing. It ain't good when you're trying to rush the quarterback.
Correct.
The Combine getting going in earnest tonight. But there's also some other news around the league. You guys have been talking with a bunch of head coaches and GMs. Pete, you spoke with Brett Veach earlier this week, the GM of the Chiefs, and he said he was fully expecting Travis Kelce to return. And that's the news today from Pat McAfee, who said that Kelce told him he's coming back. Do we believe Kelce when he says he's going to get into the best shape of his life and come back better than he has been?
You know what, Chris? That's the news of the day, is that he's going to get in the best shape of his life, because he wasn't in very good shape last year. All he had to do was put on the tape. The guy we saw on film last year was a shell of the guy we've seen. Now, age is starting to become a factor, but he also lives a really crazy life in the offseason. And for him to say that tells you he wasn't committed to the game like he should be. It sounds like he will be. If he is, he's still a guy who can catch the football. He can sit down in zones. He's not going to run away from people. We saw that in the postseason. He had one good game in the postseason against the Texans, and he disappeared. Didn't do anything in the Super Bowl. In fact, during that Super Bowl, there were plays, if you put the binoculars on him, and me and B-Mac did, he kind of loafed a little bit.
Yeah.
He didn't work hard in that game, and that's the most concerning thing to me. He has to be in better shape.
Yeah, I think that was concerning. It was hard for him to get off the jam at times, which, again, Travis Kelce had been one of the best guys separating at the line of scrimmage and being able to spot up in zone coverage. So you talked about his commitment, right? Age is a factor. I always say this, Father Time's undefeated. Like, you can't run from it. You're not going to be as fast, right? You're not going to be as agile. So what Travis Kelce will we truly get going into this season? He talked about having a bad taste in his mouth. I guess so, right? He didn't look good in the Super Bowl, so he wants to come back and end his career the right way. My question is this something where Andy Reid maybe puts him on a pitch count throughout the regular season and tries to rev him up as they make that run to the Super Bowl? Only time will tell.
Kelce's been in the Super Bowl, seems like every year over the last decade. Myles Garrett just wants to get to one. He's asked to be traded by the Cleveland Browns because he wants to chase a title. News that he's not interested in any kind of contract talks, even if they sweeten his deal. He doesn't want to hear it. Lige, how do you think this ends up?
I think he stays put. If you're the Cleveland Browns, it's hard to trade away a franchise player. Now, people always say relationships can get mended. I've seen things that have been way worse than this in the NFL get mended by NFL teams and the player as well. So it seems like he's drawing a line in the sand and saying, I don't want to do business with the Cleveland Browns. I want to move forward. But when you have a guy that's foundational like Myles Garrett, you don't let him out the building because it's not a good look. Like, he's the face of their franchise right now when you talk about the Cleveland Browns. So I honestly don't think they're going to let him out the building, because he still has 2 years left on his deal. I think the Browns are going to dig their heels in and say, you got 2 years left on your deal. You either play for us or you don't play at all. And we know this, Pete. This is your favorite saying. You only have so many earning years to play in this game. I don't think he sits out.
Well, here's what the Browns have to decide. They have to decide, are they going to continue to try and build something to win now, or are you going to build for the future? And if you're building for the future, the piece that you have, one of the major pieces, the major piece you have to go try and get assets to recoup the bad stuff you did for the Deshaun Watson deal is to try and trade Myles Garrett. So I think ultimately in the end they might realize that, look, we're not going to win with this group the way they are with Myles Garrett. You might as well trade him and get some assets back for him.
I just saw the Browns with the third fewest amount of cap space. In fact, they have no cap space. They're in the negative. We heard today that the NFL cap is increasing by 9%, about $24 million going into next season. Lige and Pete, thanks for the great work out there all day today and all week at the NFL Combine, which really begins tonight on the field with defensive linemen and linebackers. Tomorrow, it's defensive backs and tight ends, and Saturday's the big one, quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs, before the offensive linemen get a whole day to themselves on Sunday.